Hello, Tattoo Diary listeners, Apprenticeship Diary listeners. Excuse me. Sometimes I don't know why I do that. I totally don't announce the name of the show. The name of this diary entry I'm calling What We Leave Behind. Mostly because of late, I've noticed a few incidences of death, and both in a personal way, seeing it in our industry from different angles, and then also, talking about why we do what we do and what's so special about tattooing, but I think mostly the service industry in general. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories began.
All right, so the reason why I want to bring this up mostly is because even up until today, I've noticed some pretty impactful passings of people. As you guys know, and if you follow this podcast, you know that my good friend in one of our two-part diary entries, by my friend John Simmons, he took his own life this past January. And it's been pretty rough. I'm actually really excited today. I am meeting with one of John's friends that I only would have met. I don't know. That's kind of the brutality of what John did and what he took in the realm of possibilities. I could have very well met her through him if given the time, but because of the way things took place and the nature of this incident with my friend, I met a lot of people through him, and I reconnected with people that I had already kind of had a shared relationship with through him. And, for me, that's, if there is to be any meaning behind these tragedies that occur, that's it, is that it has this incredible opportunity to reconnect us in ways that we might not have been fully paying attention to all the time, and bring things into a sharper focus that, deserve that level of time and attention and care if we actually want to be people who consider ourselves loving and compassionate. So that as far as this podcast is concerned, that has happened. I've only been podcasting now for 5 years. It's long for... I think a podcast life, especially since I'm not really dedicated to growing this fast, but even in as slow as I'm going with this, and I feel like 5 years is a small amount of time to actually be doing anything. I think that this might be the time that I might be getting better at it than before. Some things have been cleared up and are less raw and more refined than before. But in that small amount of time, I've seen one of my, my friends and my podcast people, guests, pass before the podcast does. And that's a very weird feeling, and I think it's worth addressing here on the show because, if you are in, and a lot of people who tune into this podcast are tuning in because you're seeking apprenticeship, you're seeking education, you're seeking your passions, And if it's in the realm of tattooing, you're seeking a very particular position and profession that involves people in a very sacred and very direct way. And I understood this very early on in my life because I grew up in a hair salon. You know, my family has been a part of a hair salon since I was a baby. And my parents, excuse me, again, guys, this illness that I had, it's still, and I don't know, it might be just the springtime now, maybe just allergies. I've heard that the pollen is ridiculous, but it's still affecting me. Excuse me. But since I was 12, my parents owned their own hair salon. Before that, my dad was a partner in a hair salon. And, you know, I grew up talking to clients, talking to, other professionals, hanging out, spinning in the salon chairs and meeting people. And my dad always had posted on his little area, his little station, you know, current drawings of mine, and people would comment on them, and they were points of topic for when I was there. And next door there was a Mexican spot that was really cool called Nino Taco. It still exists, but it's not in the same location as it was. And I'd go over there and get, you know, Mexican food, Choco Tacos, things like that. Talk to the, you know, staff there, knew the owners there. Like every single place that we went, because my family was a small business, and kind of girded in that business, I don't know, vein. We knew to network. We knew who to talk to. We were very personable, you know, very open and giving of ourselves. I knew the owner of almost every restaurant that we went to. I mean, we made a point of it because, you know, when you're in the service industry, you back each other and you support each other and you recommend each other, and you make a point of looking through the lens of, you know, who you want to be affiliated with and quality. And when you recognize quality, you know, it's your obligation to support that and to keep that going. So that was just something that I grew up with. And when I became a hairstylist, a master barber, well, barber first, and then wanted to be a master barber so I could teach, I recognize this as well. You know, my father has been cutting hair my whole life, and at least that I'm aware of. It's been, like 4 decades. And the thing of it is that within that time, you end up cutting the hair of children, then their children's children, then children's children's children. Like, it's generational. And if you stay in a game that long, it's impossible to be in that career without death and without, you know, that kind of part of the paradigm. So, you know, there's in growing up, there was many instances of that. I remember one of our friends, these were friend groups, but they also got their hair cut at my dad's salon. And their first child they lost. And it was really traumatic. I mean, before that, we had other friends that had lost children and had to experience that. And I had to experience child death growing up, and I was never shielded from it. And I think that that's really good. I don't think it's right to shield children from death. I don't know how much they need to know about it, but I think they need to know that it's a thing. And I think they need to witness their elders coming together around that, and the community coming around that to support the people who are surviving or survive by this death, and who are grieving and who need time, love, and support. So I was never sheltered from it, but I remember this one friend group, and we still hang out with them to this day. They've had another child. They, share updates of their current child. But, my dad was invited to the funeral of this young boy who passed away. And, part of him was like, wow, I'm your friend, obviously. I think that this actually made their friendship even more deep than it was before, because of the fact that my dad was this child's first haircut. He knew this kid from that point on. And when you know people at these very pivotal moments in their timelines, and you share these moments with them, it has insane amount of gravity, and it matters. And I think that a lot of us, when we're in the service industry, we think, what is this worth? Do people even recognize, who I am and this impact, or is there much meaning in what I do? And there is such meaning to that. Those moments are the moments that keep people going. I had one client, him and I used to mess with each other quite a bit. And he was, you'd have to know the humor, and how we poked fun at each other. But one day he said to me, just in this very flippant way, and he wasn't an unintelligent man, but sometimes, maybe a little socially unintelligent. And, I'm glad because that he had me, because I'm not any kind of shrinking violet nor noob to bullying. So he said to me, your job is not as important as mine. And he was as I believe it, a corporate accountant. He handled all their taxes and stuff and did their books for them. And I was like, well, I'm gonna go to one of my favorite, movies and quotes and even actors who said this. But in the Dead Poets Society, Robin Williams says this, business, science, accounting, these are noble pursuits necessary for human life. But music, art, love, this is what we live for. And I know I bastardized that quote. That's not a direct quote. I'm going to ask you to watch the movie because it's honestly one of my favorites. Cabrini is my new favorite, I will say. But that's just because the cinematography, the score, and everything about Cabrini is just unbelievable. But Dead Poets Society has been a reigning favorite of mine for a very long time. And it has death in it. It has lots of life in it. It has lots of learning in it. It's very foundational, and I saw it when I was pretty young. My mom, we had a small house growing up, so she'd watch a whole bunch of movies. My mom has impeccable movie taste. She's really good at picking out a great film with a great story. And they're usually very under recognized films because they don't, they're not heavily, what would you call it? They don't have a lot of action or special effects or anything like that. They're just the story, and they're really good human stories. And that's her jam. And she'd always pick out really good ones. So, we only had so many rooms at our house. It was a rancher. It was small. You could hear it everywhere. And so, as a child growing up, if you were in the house, if my mom was watching something, you were watching it too. And so I was never shielded for any of these things. And like I said, the Dead Poets Society has a death in it. And it always strikes me as odd now when you have an incredible story like that, how much people, I guess, their overall view of the art or the film, if it has or explores heady topics like that, and there is a death, and it's very powerful like that, how people, their general view of it is sadness and avoidance. And it's very queer to me. Like, I mean, it really is, because I always love these films the most because they're just so beautiful. They're so beautiful, and most of them speak to such resounding hope by the end of it. And they examine things that are very real and very true and very necessary, I think, for us to confront. Like I said, if we do dare to love each other well. And, all of you, I mean, not all of you, but we just had Father's Day, for example. I have a few friends that don't have fathers anymore, who recently lost their fathers. I had a client who recently lost her father out of nowhere, and it was very sudden. And she wants to get a tattoo for him, and I kept making her cry, and she was like, please stop, I don't want to cry. And I was like, well, I'm fine with you crying. I know you might not want to cry in front of me, but it's okay to cry. It's okay to let it out. It's grief. I'd rather it be let out in tears than let out in anger or any kind of rage against mortality or things that you can't control. I'd rather you just let it out, because it's there and it's real. And I'm not uncomfortable with sitting with it. There's a really good book of the Bible that is, I think, one of my favorites, is the book of Job. And there's lots of questions around Job. Why was he tested like this? And there's lots of potential anger at God and what happened. But a big part of what links this to what I'm saying is when Job was going through everything, he had friends and people around him who were trying to tell him how to be and how to think and what they would do. And he gets really mad at them at some point and says, you don't understand. You don't have any right to tell me this. You don't get it. Don't come at me. You're not feeling this right now. You're not actually dealing with this right now. So don't act like you are. Don't act like this is happening to you. It's not happening to you. It's happening to me. And it wasn't until his friends just decided to sit with him that they started to help him. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people miss about grief, depression, all those things, is that there's nothing you can do. You can't go into it with a fix-it mode. There's nothing to fix. It just sucks. It just is awful. It's just terrible. And the only thing that people want to understand is that they're not alone and that they're supported, and they just want to feel like it's enough, because everything is too much in those moments. It's just too much. It's so overwhelming that they just need to be. And so if you're in a position of service to somebody and you have spent your time sharing in these pivotal moments with people, and that's the marks literally that you make as a tattoo artist, but figuratively on their hearts as any kind of service provider. It's so essential. It's so valuable. And I feel like it needs to be talked about on the show. There's just been a lot of things that have happened lately that I kind of want to cover and I kind of want to address. Because personally, I feel like I have a fairly good handle on these things because of my exposure and because of my take on it. I know it's awkward, and I know nobody knows what to do because they think they have to do something. They don't have to do anything. They just have to be there, show up, share a story, share a moment, because that's all the people who have lost a loved one and who are surviving this moment need is to know that they're not alone in their grief, and they're trying so desperately to hold on to everything that that person was. And so when you come together as a community of people who have known or experienced or shared in this person, it means so much when that person isn't there anymore to come and to recognize their life and to say something and to be present. It means the world. You know, like I said, we just had Father's Day. My dad's still around and he's in impeccable shape. I mean, it's incredible to have a father like that. And then when I look at him and I know how I am, and I'm very self-centered a lot, I have to really pull back and realize the fact that I've been very blessed in having a father who was active with us, who taught us things, who was there, who not only was there, but like I said, I grew up in a salon. I grew up learning from him in that kind of capacity. There's so many parents out there that have jobs that they have to segregate their families from. They have to, per the job. And I can't imagine that. I can't imagine. I mean, there was a Twitter, just as a segue, there was a Twitter question that I answered, and it said, what profession could you never date? And I said, I could never date anybody whose job I couldn't visit them at, which is very broad. But like, if I can't come to your place of work and drop you off, a sandwich, or, stop by and kiss you and say hi, I can't date that person. It would be way too alien for me, and it would just be beyond my capacity to understand. And I just don't know if I could trust that person if I wasn't able, or the job or anything, if I was not given access to it like that. I mean, you're supposed to be able to comfort your partner in deep moments, and sometimes the job requires that kind of backing and support. And I wouldn't be able to deal with that, just because of the level at which I have intimately been a part of all of this. And there is an obligation, not an obligation, but I feel a responsibility that once you put yourself into that kind of space of human existence, when you are a servant of the people, it's very necessary for you. I think it's necessary for your own healing and for your own heart and for your own soul and for your own, future, to, in moments where somebody has lost a life or, has passed, to show up for them and to be present and to show support and to recognize everything and share what that person has meant to you. Because there's going to come a time when it's your time and you're not going to be here anymore. And I think if we all kind of envision that day, we really hope that some kind words would be said, that there will be people there to help our loved ones, walk further into life without us, to support them, to comfort them, to be in some small way what we cannot be anymore. And that's very vital. So there's several things. So before any of this really occurred, a tattoo icon passed away. And recently his wife, Nicole, put out a commentary, which I commend her, man. And his birthday was actually Father's Day, I do believe, Joshua Carlton. And, he passed of cancer. Cancer takes so much from a person. It just really just withers you away. And she put out a video to kind of talk about, one, to celebrate his birthday and to share that with everybody that she knew was grieving the loss of him, and to, I think, heal herself, because it was hard. It was Father's Day, it was his birthday, and it was the first of their families having to experience all this. And, he had asked her to compile all the videos that he had in his Path series so that they could continue to making it available to future generations of tattoo artists. And the reason why I want to bring up Joshua Carlton is I only met him once, and I didn't meet him in person, if I remember. If I did, I didn't have the kind of interaction that stuck. I remember his artwork. I remember him initially in Tattoo Society magazine. I remember looking at his stuff and going, wow, this guy is different. This guy tattoos like a painter, and he knows how to replicate his painting as a tattoo. And this is incredible. And he is and was, and all of those things, like, incredible. And just what has been left behind even past his death is incredible. The amount of outpouring that people have had, the amount of education that this man has put himself to. And it was a shock to me when he passed, because, as Nicole said, he hustled hard for his whole family. And I don't know, in my mind, for all of us, up until he couldn't do it anymore. And that is just such an incredible legacy. It's so inspiring. And there was a fund that went out for the family, and an obituary space where we could all leave messages. I mean, I donated, it seemed like a very small amount to me, but I donated to that fund to let the family grieve, as I know that this is just such a huge loss. And I just wrote anywhere I could, anywhere I saw something that spoke of Joshua. I only met him once on Facebook. I told him how much I admired his art, and he said thank you. And he seemed like just by his interactions online, such a graceful, kind, deeply, what would be the word? Like, just somebody who wasn't about the nonsense. He was about growth, and he was about sincerity, and, doing things that I think he could feel very integral about. And you could just tell that that's how he carried himself. And like I said, I only had this one interaction, but the legacy that man left as a tattoo artist, and what I know he applied himself to at every moment of his life, is just incredible. And so I think that that's a huge example of, if you are getting into tattooing and you kind of feel yourself caught up in all the nonsense, try to strip it away. I mean, there's been earlier aspects of this show and this podcast where I've talked about visualizing your funeral and what people will say and things you want to have people say. But, to put it in a perspective that's very real, and maybe might hit you at this point, wherever in your journey you are, using Joshua Carlton as a example of how you'd want people to think of you when you're not here anymore, in a very massive way. What kind of focus you want to have about your work and about your life and about your impact on the human spirit. And think about all the things that you might be caught up in and whether or not they matter. Because I think that's the goal, and the key is to really put those things under a microscope. And, I feel like a lot of us were forced to do that post-COVID. But if you weren't forced to do that post-COVID, you definitely should. You definitely should. And if you're at a point where you've kind of lost touch with that post-COVID heat of all that happened to all of us, to the whole world, I'm going to ask you to go back to that, because that moment in our life was kind of a grief for all of us. Something died for all of us. And it's very important to look at life through that lens. Hello, diary listeners. Sorry for this interruption, but I had to do a brief promotional recording / advertisement, as we would say in the US, about Paradise Tattoo Gathering. I am aiding this event in shouting it out. I'd love to meet some of you in Paradise and, get to give you a hug for all of the awesome interactions and, the gratitude I have for your listening time. In order to do this and to attend just on its base level, we're going to be meeting in Western Massachusetts. It's at Jiminy Peak Mountain Resort. It's an awesome, awesome venue. And what's great about it is that you are kind of trapped on a mountain with all of these truly dope artists, and there's only so many places that we can go. So you're bound to run into people that you probably only dreamed about meeting. And on top of that, these artists are going to be doing amazing seminars. I'm going to be giving away a seminar on how to be an awesome apprenticeship prospect. So that's going to be my freebie that I offer. I'm also going to be tattooing this year. So whatever way you're coming at this, you're going to go to www.tattoogathering.com to get your Artist Weekend Pass. If you get it now, they're giving away a early bird sweatshirt with it, which they're pretty dope. I have to say that what I like about the sweatshirt is they're not black. It's not a black hoodie. Whenever you go to tattoo conventions, it's just a sea of black hoodies, and it's just, I guess you can find the tattoo convention, but here we're gonna be on a mountain, and it's gonna be hard to avoid the tattoo convention because it's just gonna be there, and that's all that's gonna be there for the most part. And they do have at this time of year, October 24th to the 27th, pardon me. They do have a Halloween haunted house kind of thing that they set up, so that's pretty cool. But apart from that, it's off season. It's beautiful. The leaves are shining. It's just a wonderful nature spot for anybody who's interested. And there's all level of things happening. If you would like to tattoo, again, go to www.tattoogathering.com. Fill out your booth application. It's such a great convention to kind of work because it's intimate. It's not as busy as those normal tattoo conventions. You can get all manner of things if you go to that webpage, find out about Paradise, and just know that I will be very happy to meet you in Paradise, as this is an event that I try to make every time it happens. All right, listeners, back to our podcast. So that's the first passing that I wanted to acknowledge on the show and talk about and kind of put into view for all of you, and to kind of announce, because once Nicole has all of that compiled, which she has said is going to take some time, and I trust it will. I intend on buying that series. That will be definitely something I do. That kind of legacy of a person and that much love that I had for him. I was really upset that I didn't take the advantage of meeting him and getting closer to him while he was alive. So if nothing else, I can have that past his death and help further support his family as they try to figure out what's next without him. And the next thing that happened was a girl on one of the Facebook groups. I'm not supposed to overly talk about these things in specifics, but she had her first death. She had been tattooing for 5 years, and she was feeling very weird about it because she knew that her client had cancer, but the way that they had left it was that they would exchange notes. He'd have to get a doctor's approval, and he had all these ideas, and she reached out to kind of check in about that and ended up finding out that he had passed. And she was very at a loss about how to feel and how to move and how to deal with it. And so I kind of shared with her a lot of what I've already kind of broken down here today with all of you, is that her grief is completely fine. She has had a very important place in this man's life. She was worried about, making his family face the death again. But I told her that it's nothing to feel bad about. It is what it is. They're facing a life without him regardless. And I'm fairly certain that hearing from someone who had been tattooing him since their beginning and who he valued to wear their artwork on them, I'm sure would mean the world to them, and that it isn't a hardship. I mean, it's just hard. But to share those things and to open yourself up and to give back to somebody who gave so much to you, especially with this person, she said he went to her when she was just starting in tattooing, and so he gave her a gift of his skin and his faith and his time and his stories. And I'm sure they shared much in that time and space. And it matters. And I think that doing whatever she had to do to recognize that death and meet the people around him would be very, very valuable. I let her know that just this past year, a friend of mine killed himself. In 2020, one of my father's consistent clients, his daughter committed suicide. We went to her funeral. I said that, we've had deaths along the way many, many times. I also attended the funeral of a friend of mine's father. I'd never met her father. I just loved her. And I told her about that and how amazing it was to experience this man and his family and witness such an outpouring, because he died fairly young and unexpectedly. It was a heart aneurysm. And to see and to be there for my friend and to let her know that we're all here still, and that, we'll suffer this grief with her. And to let her know, I try to let her know all the time that I'm certain he smiles on her. And I'm certain that she will make him very, very proud in her life. And that she has such value. And that the love that I had for her is a love that I know came from her father, and how he raised her, how he dealt with her whole family, the way that they are with each other. And that love resonates in who she is as a person. And so me being her friend and recognizing how beautiful she is from that point is what allowed me to be at his services and to hug her and, be with all these people I didn't know. I didn't know a lot of them. And just, look at the altar of his possessions, her father's possessions, and realize how funny and cool and just genuine her dad was. It kind of made me be like, wow, man, I really wish I would have known this person, but I am so blessed that I get to know his daughter. And that I get to shepherd her as a friend into the future and support her and be something for her, because I'm able to do that. And that's what loving each other is all about. So it's not wrong to recognize your connection with people. You shouldn't feel, I think, you can feel any way you want to feel, of course, but I think that it matters greatly to, look to memorial services or any kind of request of the family to honor the life of this person. I've donated to charities. I've planted trees. I've done tattoos. I've, gone to memorial services. The one thing I've really never done is bought flowers. I don't think. Mostly because I don't really like cut flowers myself. I do think they're beautiful on a gravesite and all of that, but I guess it's just sad for me because I know that those flowers are gonna die too now. And I don't know, it always just struck me as like if you're gonna put a symbol on a grave or around anything, I think it should just new life, as an opening up, a restart of something that can only do so because of this moment in time and because of this passing. But that's just me. And just being with people. So the other one that I want to address, it just happened this morning. It was the first thing that I woke up to. And again, this is not somebody that I know, but someone that is very, very big in the tattoo industry. Dan Kubin, most people know the unbelievable nature of the machines that he makes, and they're just such epic machines. And I'm really honored to have one personally. The work that you can do with them, but just this morning he announced that his wife of 25 years passed unexpectedly, and my heart just broke for him. I don't know the man. I own a machine. I have a product that has such quality and that I know has a very personal effort from it. I noted when I received the machine just all the little extras that came with it, a note that said how it had been calibrated to work. Just a whole bunch of little things, stickers, the casing itself. It was just beautifully done in all ways. And from what I found out from this announcement is that his wife did most of the administration and that she did all the shipping. He doesn't even know how to access half the stuff that she did. This was so unexpected and out of nowhere that he asked everybody for some time because he's going to need it to figure out what's next. This was such a radical thing to have happen to somebody and out of nowhere. And I just can't imagine. I can't imagine 25 years and having that kind of love and connection. And, again, Nicole who's Joshua Carlton's wife, I can't imagine. But this came out of nowhere for Dan. And it's weird because I had just been in a meeting. I had just been in a meeting where his name came up for a potential seminar. And, to wake up to that news, you just never know, folks. You never know. And so if you are in an industry where, I can't even imagine a job that doesn't have this kind of this kind of application of thought. It all matters, folks. It all matters. And if you are finding it hard to feel connected to the things you do, and you get very angry and very frustrated and very upset continually, and it feels abusive, or it feels like it's just not working, not clicking, or just, you're not getting enough out of it, please stop. Please stop doing that to yourself, and stop doing it to the job. Every job, everything deserves its effort and its understanding and its application, and it's all necessary. There aren't jobs more important than the other, not in my mind. And it shows if you're that kind of person, and it does matter if you're that kind of person, because the way that people come out for you when all is said and done gets revealed when things are put under that kind of microscope. So I'd like for anyone listening to this to please raise in prayer Joshua Carlton's family, Dan Kubin's family, and to live a life that has, I think, a better attention to these aspects of living and life and moments, and to be very, very, very conscientious of the impact that you have in these moments, because it all matters. One of the 4 agreements, and there are 4, and they're all kind of relative to what I'm saying right now, but one of the things is being impeccable with your word. And part of this podcast mission for myself is to try to speak better and more clearly, to really stand behind what I say and be acknowledging of what I say and how it comes off. It's been an aim of mine, this personal concentration. And it's been in a pursuit of becoming better at my own impeccability, because I want to be clear with how I think and feel. And the only thing that I have, well, not the only thing I have my actions, but your actions should correlate with your words. I mean, that's part of what people will see as integral about you, as if, the things you say are the things you do. And I've been really seeking to try and be better at that as a person. I've not been so great about that in my past, and I'll admit that. So repentance is there, and my aim is to be better and better. And I want to be better and better. So yeah, you have to be impeccable with what you say, and you have to realize the impact of what you can produce in another person if you forget about the importance of how you act and what you say. It can deeply, deeply, deeply hurt another person. And, I don't think any of us mean to be that way. But if we don't remain conscious of all of these points, and we don't aim to be conscious of all of these points, it can cause massive harm, folks. So I wanted to ask that of all of you. Focus on what we leave behind. Focus on what you're leaving behind at any given point. Just down to if you see a piece of trash on the ground, pick it up. Pick it up and put it in a receptacle that deserves to be put in. Clean up the world around you. Leave it a better place. It matters. It matters. On this note, as we've been speaking about these huge influencers. I had mentioned that I was in a meeting, and I am currently working with the coordinators and main peeps at the Paradise Tattoo Gathering. I'm really excited about that. So in the future, I'm going to be sharing a lot of the Paradise Tattoo Gathering posts. I want to help them advertise it. I'm hoping that I can meet more of the people that I have. I have listeners here on the podcast. I hope that you'll venture a Paradise Tattoo Gathering. And just come. I mean, it's an incredible tattoo convention. It's rare, folks. It's rare, and it would have to be, in order for it to be something that I have attended since 2011. And I have nothing but great things to say. Businesses like TattooNow, Reinventing the Tattoo, now Fireside, through Jake Meeks is a part of this event. And, it's just incredible. So the one thing that we kind of went over last time, and I say we, it's not, I'm just helping with the social media of all things, folks, right? Like me who, let's be real. I'm trying to be better at this stuff all the time, but that's just it. The reason why I'm helping is because I want to be better at it. I'm learning CapCut, and I'm really enjoying CapCut. So I'm hoping that I can take all of the wisdom and fun video editing stuff that I do, and apply it to this podcast, and just level up the podcast and maybe drive some interest up. But I really like the idea of putting myself to the Paradise Tattoo Gathering, because it's given so much to me, and just like the whole, I guess the whole overarching premise of this particular diary entry is just like what we leave behind. The Paradise Tattoo Gathering has meant so much for me, and this whole podcast is about apprenticeship, mentorship, sharing of information, learning, educational stories, etc. Well, this event is one of the most educational ones that I have ever been to, and it harkens to me the same as a lot of the seminars and educational spaces that I went to when I was a hairstylist. So it has always been a thing of my heart. But last year they did a really wonderful thing, and they asked questions at the end of the event about how they can make it better. And one of the things that they went over was a scholarship fund, because it's not cheap to go to this event. And I wish I could give a lot more information about the scholarship fund. They're still trying to ferret out certain things with it. But what we do know is that Derek Youngberg of Tattoo Career Builders, which is launching very, very soon, but that is who is sponsoring the scholarship as of right now. And I have gotten word, if I understand, that it is syncing up with other factions, and is really trying to be a nonprofit space that can offer extended aid to other events, other educational spaces, and it can continue to grow and offer, support to people who want to get into this industry and who are very passionate and are showing beautiful excellence, and, might not actually be able to find that kind of contact or that kind of education or experience where they are, but they know it's out there. And one of the places I can tell you it exists is at the Paradise Tattoo Gathering. I have met so many people in this industry through that space, and it's incredible. It's incredible. So there is a scholarship I would ask everybody to keep an eye out. You can follow Tattoo Career Builders. It's just that on IG. Definitely follow Derek Youngberg as well. You'll see him on that space, and keep up with that. If you're listening to this podcast, you're interested in your own growth. I know you're also probably an aspiring person of some kind. If it's in the tattoo space, especially, know this person. He is incredible. Derek came up to me last year and we had such great conversations. And the thing that I really want to announce, as this podcast will be airing tonight at 7, is that tomorrow on Fireside Tattoo, Jake Meeks podcast, me, Derek, and Jake did a podcast together. Really cool. And we sat down and we talked about Paradise. We talked about this scholarship. Next week, I'm going to be re-airing the Fireside podcast, just audio only. But I wanted to make an announcement today for anybody who listened today to the show that Fireside is going to be having me and Derek Youngberg on there to discuss this scholarship that they are creating that is really gaining a momentum and that might be really, really cool and foundational for the young artists of the next generation of tattooing. So keep an eye out. Definitely check out Fireside. Should be a pretty good show. I will say that Derek, we kind of lost him by the end of the show. He's out in I think it's is it Washington or Portland? So out there, and he's in this really remote area, and so his internet connection gets dodgy. So we lose him at points of it, but he's such a sweet guy, and I think that if you have any interest in any of what I've just talked about, you can reach out to Derek, DM him, whatever. And I say him and Gabe Ripley are actually working on a whole website together. So this is taking off, folks. And I just wanted to, let you guys know as somebody who wants to give you guys all the information I can, have that kind of impact on the industry in any way that I can, and keep you in the loop. Just know that the scholarship, I don't think that you have to be somebody who is new to tattooing. I think that if you are just finding it hard to take that next step and you don't know where to go with it, and you need some financial help to get where you need to go, it's for you as well. So definitely check it out. There's a handful of people on here that I know I've talked to on the back end of the podcast, and I might actually, once everything's said and done and the links are up, and that's what Fireside is going to do. It's going to have a visual, it's going to have a YouTube video of the whole podcast. It's also going to have all the different links to where you need to go in order to apply for the scholarship and stuff. Hit me up if you want direction there, but we're going to be doing that tomorrow, putting that out, and then I'm going to re-put out the raw audio with the similar links next week so that we have a couple iterations to let you guys know that this is happening. But if you need me to specifically share the link, I'll do that, because I just want everybody to take off, and I am very grateful. I'm very grateful to be involved in this year's show. I'm very grateful to be asked to help, to put myself to this. It's been such a cool thing already. I'm old, so it's been hard for, I think, me to be taught a lot of this stuff and to be gotten on board with helping the event. But I've always been a slow starter in most things, but once I get going, I do pretty well. But bottom line, what I want to say is that I'm I'm honored to put myself to it. And I'm so grateful for all of you listeners, for the beautiful things that you've told me on the back end of the show, the connections that have been made, the ability to watch all of you climb and grow so much. It's just such a cool thing to know that some of you I talked to before you even got into your field, and now to watch you just soar in it is just so cool. And I just feel so blessed. And my biggest hope in this world is to do cool things with cool people. And I think since day one, I'm just happy to be here, folks. I am so grateful for every new day, for every new moment, for any kind of involvement that somebody will give me. I am so, so grateful. And God has gifted me in so many different ways, but I know that if I don't honor and I don't appreciate those gifts, they'll stop coming because I won't deserve them at that point. And that's kind of the whole point of this entry, is hopefully this will help remind you of, what's important if you've forgotten, or validate you if, I don't know, if you need that. I'm happy to. I love you all, and I think that's a wrap for this week. Look out for tomorrow's show on Fireside. It's going to be awesome. Follow Derek on IG, and definitely follow Tattoo Career Builders. It's going to be a nonprofit business that is going to be really dedicating itself to tattoo education. So be in the know. All right? Bye, listeners. Have a powerful week.
Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is the_apprenticeship_diaries. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.